Do Christians reincarnate? Do Christians reincarnate? Well, I did. At the age of 34, I discovered that I was a Christian theologian, and that explained my lifelong passion for understanding the nature of good and evil and understanding how I can connect with the source, with God. So this video is the longer first version I made of describing, sharing with you my experiences for why Christians do reincarnate and why it had become such a problem that I had to work through a lot of belief systems, a lot of invalidation in the Christian theology. So this version of my presentation is quite long. This is the complete unexpurgated version in which I share a lot about my personal past lives, my journey. People who are interested in comparing how people discover their past lives, various truths of that journey, will be interested in this video. There's a much shorter one available. That is what I made second. A lot of times you have to make the first flow quite long, and then you're able to condense the points. So you might want to start with the shorter version of this, in which I simply talk about, do Christians reincarnate? Of course they do. Understand Jesus, heal your soul. So whether or not you see that first one, here you are now for the long version. Welcome. My name is Carl Johann Schroeder. I'm a spiritual teacher by passion, as I like to say. This is my life. I help people connect to their souls because I love to connect to my soul, and I share the techniques that work for me. And so I want to talk in this video in a more informal way. I considered approaching the topic academically with research. I considered that for about 1 second. And then I was like, that's not me, okay? I'm a mystic. I experiencing these things directly. I want to talk about, why is Christianity anti-reincarnation? Free your soul, understand Jesus. So this is anecdotal. This is from my personal experience. This is from my passion. I decided to try this video for fun late at night, so I wouldn't be too fresh. I might seem a little tired, but that's okay. See, I want to just have like late night relaxed fun with myself, sharing these views of mine, because recently I was on this website that is sort of a fan page, scholarly academic fan page for a religious lifetime of mine. I am in my soul. I'll talk about how reincarnation really works, okay? Because in many ways, the traditional views of reincarnation are just as flawed as the Christian views, which seem to exclude reincarnation. But then I was reading, according to a 2009 Pew Forum research, what do you call a poll? It's like 25% of U.S. Americans, Christians, believed in reincarnation. And then I thought, well, that's cool. But then I thought, well, a lot of Christians in America are like problematic, shall we say. And in fact, trying to unite the Christian churches under a clear presentation of the teachings of Jesus, that was a goal of one of my Christian theologian lifetimes, Vladimir Soloviev, a Russian theologian mystic from about 1853 to 1900. Anyway, but let me back up a little bit. So, who am I? What right do I have to talk about reincarnation? And how is it that I came to discover I had a lot of Christian past lives, Christian theologians, and see, I thought, I was ecstatic to find out, like, that's me. That explains my life. That's my soul. That's where I'm going. It's very exciting to connect to your soul through other lifetimes. And even to just perceive the same soul, another soul, in several historical lifetimes. It just connects me with the soul level. I love the soul world. Okay, our souls are our version of the universe, our way of loving, our way of contributing to the universe. Each one of us is a universe. It's the fractal nature of consciousness. Fractal means sort of like microcosms within macrocosms, like, the structure keeps repeating. But at each level of repetition, it's a new set of free will. So basically, like, your soul is your essence of the universe with all of your settings on all the options. That's what every person is, their own universe. Every consciousness is their own version, their own copy of the entire universe. There's a lot of debate about free will. Free will can't be avoided, okay? God can't override your free will. Nothing can override your free will. Oh yeah, humans try to override each other's free will. All they get is the group of people, like, who here would like to pretend that we can conquer each other, we can override each other's free will? Oh, I will. I'll be the one who is overridden by you, but I'm really just studying you to try to figure out how to override your free will. It's all mind games. It's okay. It's like, people need to understand the real background mechanisms, like system of the universe. The universe, the multiverse universe, the multiverse of universes where each person is their own universe, their own collection of settings, consciousness choices on all the possibilities. So it's a multiverse, which I refer to as the source. And but we can also talk about God, Goddess, Great Spirit, Creator, all that is. Every different kind of way of talking about it has a slightly different, can bring in some different strengths and different views on things. But basically, I mean, the divine is infinite. It's the nature of consciousness to keep expanding. When you're aware of something and experience it enough subjectively, you start to move to more objectively viewing that, and then viewing that, and viewing that. So larger and larger contexts. And that each consciousness has its own copy of the entire universe. It's kind of like, you have your own computer and you connect to websites, but it's your own downloaded copy of websites. Well, I don't know how far to take that analogy, but it's kind of like your soul is a source of your divine personality, your essential personality. Believe me, it feels great to be your soul. In all your best moments in life, all your peak moments of life, you were being more of your soul. You were being in the flow of enjoying your human life from the higher, bigger, deeper levels of consciousness of your higher self that plans a great life for you, and connecting all of the versions of you in different times and different spaces is your soul. So people use, I should probably a little terminology here, okay? A lot of people can talk about souls. What they really mean is like a personality, a spirit, I would call them. So like Michael Newton, Destiny of Souls, he wrote a book, a few books. He's very famous for, he was a past life regression hypnotist, and he pioneered, explored, extended more of the idea. I don't know if he first had the idea, but to what if standard hypnosis regression is you put someone into a meditative hypnotic state, and if they want to, if they're ready, I mean, you can't force anything, but if somebody is ready to, they can connect with other lifetimes. And a lot of times a usefulness of past life regression, it's not to just collect a bunch of impressive names. I was this, I was that, I was that. And it's like one of the criticisms of reincarnation, right, is like, why does everybody claim they're someone famous? They don't. It's just like egos make up ego reasons why they should ignore things that egos don't want to look at. When I say ego, by the way, I really mean negative ego there. Positive ego is your human self. You are a spirit who pours your energy, your presence into a human body. A part of you, a part of your greater consciousness is committed to living inside of the human system. The human system is composed of beliefs. The beliefs contain consciousness to build up a whole reality in time and space. So yeah, consciousness is behind it all. Consciousness is bigger than time and space. So just a little background of how did I get into reincarnation? So basically, I had a pretty good childhood. Parents that tried to do their best for me and my sister. They had both had a lot of abuse, trauma when they were young. My father, he grew up in Nazi Germany. He was a boy. He was in the Hitler Youth. He said it was like Boy Scouts, but they kept going on about somebody named Hitler. I mean, these kids don't know. But certainly through the war, he was traumatized. He saw horrible things, and of cities being bombed by us. I mean, and kids being moved to the countryside. So anyway, after the war, when he could, he came to the United States. He met my mother, who had a lot of trauma from her father was abusive. The whole side of the family is really quite messed up. I can't even talk to them anymore. They're off in their own reality. They can't think straight. They like to support dictators and strongmen, and they can be racist and abusive. And that's a whole other side. That's what I was saying about what's going on with like 25% of U.S. Christians believe in reincarnation. Yay! Wait, which 25%? Some of them are pretty messed up. Sorry, it's true. I mean, they don't do what Jesus would do. I love that little phrase, what would Jesus do? I think someone came up with it in the 60s. Anyway, the point is, so I have a pretty sweet life, small town life in rural New York State with me and my sister. I was always kind of a fantasy-oriented kid. I had some mystical experiences that I can talk about elsewhere. Heck, let's mention quickly. At the age of 4, one of my first earliest memories was, it was shortly before going to school at the age of 5 for kindergarten. Age of 4 is when the toddler is becoming a child and the theory of mind develops. This is very important to understand. The theory of mind, that's where you understand like where your consciousness is at versus other people. That other people actually have their own consciousnesses, their own thoughts, their desires, their motivations, their stories, their all this kind of stuff. So what was my introduction? I mean, if somebody is really traumatized at the age of, before 5, before their theory of mind and their childhood really starts, and that with childhood really starts around age 5, they're like, children develop a sense of, they want their privacy, they want their own toys, they have their own stories, their own friends, their own, they have more in a sense of identity. Before that, pretty much connected to their mother. So, yeah, age of 4, I remember in the back, I talk more about this in detail in other places. I really want to focus on like, what's the deal with Christianity? Why is Christianity fundamentally anti-reincarnation according to the dogma? It's not actually anti-reincarnation. If you just look at the Bible, it's not really anti-reincarnation. That's what I'm going to talk about. It's unclear, and the thing is, main thing I want to communicate with this video, something that I've been working out for myself, is how the Christian view of what happens after death is perfectly consistent with reincarnation. It's just more of, it hasn't gotten there yet. It hasn't gone through the afterlife, gotten ready for in the next lifetime. Christians get very focused on basically the transition into the afterlife. So anyway, saying about my childhood. So yeah, I was in the backyard, and I remember like looking out, had a nice picket white fence. I'm safe in the backyard, just looking, sort of getting a sense of the world beyond there. I might have been hearing like I'm going to be going to school soon. And I just sort of asked, in my child's mind, I asked, like, what's the world like out there? And I suddenly have this intense vision of this kind of giant dark cavern, huge cavern with many people at different levels, kind of like men, women, children, all suffering, like wailing, like, just, it was a vision of hell, but it wasn't fiery. It was just a cavern. And I had not been raised with fundamentalism. I had not been allowed to watch horror movies. This was not coming from me. This was an objective vision. This was the answer of, like, I had asked, what is out there? What's the world like? And I was just like shocked. I was like, all these people like crying out in different degrees, levels of pain down into the depths. And I just said, what is that? And this sort of comforting voice behind me said, that's the world, but don't worry, you've come to make the world a better place, or come to help make the world a better place. Or whatever exactly was said, that's the idea. And I'm trying to say it wasn't like a special me. It was more of a comforting thing of like, don't worry, like that is what's happening in the world. People are at different levels of suffering, feeling very isolated, alienated, needy, helpless, powerless. But don't worry, you have a distinct, separate identity. This was why it was very important for the development of my theory of mind. So I've grown up my whole life with a real clarity that like there's a lot of crazy, weird suffering going on. And I kind of wish, like at that time when I was a little kid, I'd turn around to the voice and say, "Who are you?" like this comforting voice. But I just focused on the image in front of me, and I remember having like this childlike quality of like just sort of saying to those people, "It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay," and then the vision disappeared. But yeah, I've had some mystical experiences. I spent my childhood really focused on utopia, really trying to design a utopia, like pre-teen when I got a guitar and my first guitar teacher, like first lesson, like what I did was I just composed with a few basic chords a song about my vision of utopia. Do you think we will ever see a world as beautiful as mine? And just I remember drawing like sort of world building, they call it in fantasy, sci-fi and whatever. But I remember drawing maps and of a planet, like an entire planet that I come from, and just a peaceful world and all this kind of stuff, and being very concerned with morality, what's going on Earth. As a little kid, a really little kid. I mean, I was aware that my dad was German. He dropped his accent as soon as he could. He really didn't sound German. Well, maybe just a touch of it. But yeah, there were in small town, rural New York State, there were some, less shall we say, educated people who would resort to like just sort of calling me a German, calling me a Nazi. And I remember as a little kid being really agonizing over like, do I have the evil of Hitler in me? Just am I as evil as Hitler? And nobody had, a really good answer. But this was all working on, at times I have felt sorry for myself. Oh, the poor little kid, no kid should have to think that. And then that kind of goes down the path of feeling powerless and a victim and whatever. It's like there's different mental directions you can go in. But the other direction that feels really good is like I talk to my inner child and I'm like, good for you. You're amazing. That's so wonderful. Like at such an early age, you're wrestling with the fundamental philosophical questions, morality, ethical questions. The whole point of, spiritual and religious traditions is how to be the kind of person who can connect with the divine, experience a God of love, So I was raised Presbyterian, Christian, not like some of my fundamentalist relatives who were quite judgmental, but Presbyterian, Christian, and just sort of leafing through the Bible, like my mind wandering, during service, not listening to the sermon so much, just leafing through the Bible. I really liked Ezekiel, and I really liked Jesus. Those two, I mean, especially Jesus. I mean, Jesus is just amazing. And what I liked about Ezekiel was these visions of these otherworldly kind of like sci-fi, like phantasmagorical, isn't that a great word? Sort of mythic visions of angels and other realms, other hierarchies of the divine. So anyway, yeah, as a kid, then growing up into high school and then into college, I got scared. I got really scared of the world. I got really kind of defensive, bitter, giving up in some levels. Other levels, like, being very split. I mean, if you're an honest human being, you have your good moments and you have your down moments. And then what's happening is the whole challenge of Earth is that we're here to learn to be creators. On a lot of planets, like, they're just already all positive societies. Beings just have a great time living there. They don't necessarily discover their full identity and creatorship. They just kind of go with the flow and everything's wonderful. When you come to a planet like Earth, you're actually a more confident, advanced soul, consciousness, the higher self level. There's all these, like, you can think about the levels of the soul and your version of the universe. You are the universe. Every person is the universe, meaning the universe experiencing itself through your perspective. You have the full love and wisdom and power of the universe within you, behind you, ready to back you up, give you solutions, to have the most wonderful life, to completely fit in a joyful, blissful, ecstatic, flowing way with your full creative love and power, to be part of the communities that you belong with, to serve an entire planet society in the most beautiful ways. I mean, I'm tapped in, tuned on, tune in, turn on, like Abraham Hicks likes to say. Absolutely. But yeah, getting pretty, like, cynical, scared through high school and then college. And because you learn about, like, well, I was pretty sheltered as a kid. Then again, I saw, like, some scary things from my fundamentalist relatives, that side of the family. And bullying, kids calling me a Nazi, whatever. Mostly I was just a very kind of creative, unusual kid. I wasn't, like, really picked on like some kids. I was just sort of different. I was just sort of distant. Like, people had no idea that I experimented with, entheogens, as Carl Ruck, Professor Carl Ruck, coined that term at Boston University. I got to know him a little bit in Boston when I went to MIT. A girlfriend was going to BU and took some classes with him, and it's like I recognize him. It's like he talked a lot about the Eleusinian mysteries. That's in Greek culture. It's not even well known. It's not well publicized, but for like hundreds and hundreds of years, it was a staple of Greek culture. It was like the core of their genius, that they had this mystery school that all Greek citizens were invited or maybe even required to go to at least once. And under penalty of death, it was not shared exactly what was happening in these mysteries. And for the most part, people respected that. But we know basically that, like, people made a pilgrimage to Eleusis, or however you say it, this town. There was some kind of underground chamber where people reenacted the creation myth of Persephone, who is the daughter of Demeter, the mother, the goddess mother of the earth, and that her daughter is captured by Hades, the king of the underworld. He's not exactly Satan. He's just king of an underworld, and Persephone ends up spending half the year underground. So that's the Greek myth explanation for why the seasons turn cold, and then the other half of the year with her mother on Earth. That was the compromise they made. So anyway, but that people, so it's a life, death, rebirth cycle, mythology and experience, and people took some kind of psychoactive substance, an entheogen, as Carl Ruck called it, something that connects you with God, a drug a God drug. And he knew all about these ceremonies because he was there. He ran in the ceremonies, and it's like my soul. I recognized him. I went to some of those, more than one of the ceremonies, some sort of ritual where people fundamentally experience the afterlife, When people came back from an Eleusinian mystery ritual, they no longer feared death, and they felt a deep sense of the kinship, the connection of all people. So even though they came back and still slaves were slaves and, the royalty were royalty, whatever, there was many people feel this is the roots of democracy, the roots of the ethics that this society fundamentally had a mystical experience, that some sort of near-death experience type of thing where they came back and no longer feared death and felt a transcendence, a connection, a humanistic connection of society, more than humanistic, a really spiritual experience. So why am I talking about that? Let's see. So the Eleusinian mysteries, some things in college were certainly inspiring, and then other things, I was in despair. This was in the 80s, right? So there were definitely some fears of like, are they gonna blow us up? What's gonna happen? These days, it's 2025 I'm speaking from. I was born in 1963. These days, the concern is like, are people going to so avoid ecological disaster, the responsibilities to be good stewards of the earth, so avoiding that they're going to like put their trust in dictators and, sort of battle to the end. There are people who want to hasten some sort of biblical type apocalypse in sort of like anxious ideas of maybe we'll bring back Jesus or God or something. I mean, you know what? There's so many different varieties of extreme mythologies, people trying to figure out like what's going to happen. I don't blame them. I mean, it's very confusing to be a human on a planet with a pile of negative beliefs. Let's get back to that point. I was saying the thing about Earth, other planets are so totally positive, but Earth is a planet you come to, and there's a lot of negative going on and a lot of positive going on. Positive are true beliefs that let through the divine functioning, how the universe really works, so that you can take full advantage in the best sense, fully enjoy creatorship in the most generous, loving, abundant universe. Absolutely. You can have an eternity of joy, creativity, love in this universe, this multiverse, the way the system of consciousness works. It's already had eternity to figure out the best way for everything to work, because time is an invention of consciousness. So consciousness was already perfected before it then invented time and space. So everything's planned, everything works, everything's fine. Gets into a lot of theology of free will and such, but remember, basic concept, consciousnesses cannot override each other. They can only agree to form groups in which they will adhere to the same rules that may fall out as like some people get to be the bullies, some people get to be the victims. Looks like there's a lot of unfairness and injustice. Why doesn't God come back and fix it? Well, God's right here, okay? The source never leaves. That God, is great spirit creator, God of love, never leaves. Love is caring about life, helping there to be whole, healthy systems of life. And a system is beyond time and space. Systems have a holistic, magical properties of everything is working all at once. Who can say which came first, the chicken or the egg? How did it all evolve? It's great mysteries of how life comes about. But life always works. There are these whole systems. So positive, true beliefs, you work with that directly. It's wonderful. You can be happy forever. False, negative beliefs break apart systems. They focus on, something's out to get me, something's bad, something's wrong, destroy something, break something, like got to get rid of all the bad guys. And what happens with negativity is it feels really bad, okay? Your greater consciousness, your emotions, which emotions are a holistic read on, how you're doing, what kind of belief systems you have running. False negative beliefs feel really bad. But they're meant to be there. They serve a purpose in creation because, every consciousness has free will. You can experience what you want. And the source is going to support you in experiencing whatever you want by law of attraction. That's what they call it, the resonance. Whatever kind of mood you get into, whatever beliefs you have, you're going to attract more experiences like that. First of all, you interpret everything in that way. So then you start getting more and more people, beings who also believe that way, and you all act out more things together. So Earth is a place where there are a lot of negative beliefs. Everybody comes in here with a pile of negative beliefs and a pile of positive beliefs, and you sort through them. And if you work with the source that's always here, then you can always be guided. You can always be safe. Yeah, there's a lot of scary things in the world, but the source, God, your higher self, can be goddess, your future self, your spirit guides. There's so many ways to that's what's wonderful about positive beliefs. You open up this infinite multiverse of all these beings who are just joyful and positive and wise, and they'll help you to have a wonderful eternity. So anyway, yeah, with what is they saying? The positive beliefs and the negative beliefs that you come to Earth, people have different ones, but basically the false things that make you feel bad. So they act like guardrails. They act like case studies, what not to do, the do not do instructions of life. Don't break the system. Don't hate people. Don't try to control everyone. If you can try it, you can buy into these false belief systems that the false beliefs, they gang up, they reinforce each other. Because any one single false belief is just like, that is so blatantly obnoxious, destructive. Why would I ever believe that? So very quickly, false beliefs, they kind of shock you. They shock your consciousness by saying that Earth is a really dangerous place and you got to control other people or they're going to be out to get you. What? Yeah, it's true. And if you don't believe it, you're going to die. So don't even try to not believe it. You better believe it. And if you do believe it, well, hey, we'll tell you how you can work really hard. You can control people. You could be top dog someday. You could be in charge. You could make the world work however you want. So, and some people are like, well, I have no morality. I don't care about people. I just want to be the dictator. And other people are like, well, I want to see a happy world. I want everyone to have smiles. And so let's force happiness. And everybody's trying to force things. They're not getting back to hey, let's get back to basics. So maybe that was a false belief in the very beginning, saying that, God isn't here. There is no God. You're somehow left to the mercy of really evil forces and all this stuff. It's like, no, it's not true. It's not true. But what happens is when you come to a planet that has a bunch of negative options to believe and experience, you pick which ones you're going to try and you put a little bit of your consciousness in there. That's the human you. That's the human part of you. The positive ego is the human part of you that, hey, boss, I'm experiencing this. This is scary. And you're supposed to be self-loving, self-caring enough that you be present with what's going on. So you get a read on oh, my human being is feeling this way. And then step back and be like, okay, I care about myself, calm down, we'll get some solutions. Hey, and then you kind of turn around and source, back me up. What beliefs do I need to believe? What do I need to think? Who do I need to talk to? Who do I need to ask for help from to get some of the real solutions of the universe so I can create a beautiful life? That's what it's really happening. So back to the point of, through college, I got pretty negative. Then I had a big spiritual awakening after college. And I don't want to go too deep with the stories here. I'm trying to paint a picture of how it is I came to get into reincarnation. So the first big spiritual awakening I had was I was just trying to make the best of a job after college, and the little software company, it seemed really nice, a music software company. But they gave me this assignment that was impossible. And how do I know it was impossible? I couldn't do it, and I freaked out, and I had a spiritual experience. But to be responsible, I quit my job because I thought I would just help the world wake up. It shouldn't take more than a few years, right? to create world peace, whatever. And then, so I made the mistake of thinking that the outer objective world is what you have to change. No, actually, if you change yourself, the outer objective world acts like a mirror. You're crossing paths with people that you have things in common with. The more you can just get your connection, get what it is. Why did I meet this person? Oh, it's to think about this, to clarify, my positive values and let go of some of my false negative beliefs. Things will slip away. Things will change very easily, very quickly. You don't have to save the world. Save yourself, and you save yourself by caring about yourself enough to ask for higher assistance. Open the doors to love. Yes, you can love me. Help me to love myself. So anyway, my first big spiritual awakening was basically like my brain exploding, like, oh my God, God is real. God is real. It's amazing. And that was huge for me, to feel that there's actually this incredible, vast, unlimited, loving wisdom, intelligence, awareness of the universe, and it wants to help me it wants to help all of us have a most wonderful life. So my brain was just kind of screaming like, God is real, God is real, God is real. And I just quit my job to write a book to help save the world, help make the world a better place, like my childhood vision. So a lot of stuff was coming back to me. And what I did to be responsible, I got a friend of mine to take over my job. And he was more of a straightforward, we were both from MIT. So that's probably why they threw the hardest problem they had at me. And then I gave it to him. And I saw him a few years later. He said, yeah, I couldn't do that. But for him, it was no big deal. For me, it threw me into an existential crisis, because to be told I should be able to do something that I can't do, it was porting a program to a simpler platform. Would have been nice if the company software could work on this other computer, but it just didn't support it. It couldn't work. It would have to be rebuilt. I mean, some things don't work. It doesn't mean your life won't work. The source will guide you around the dead ends. But yeah, there are a lot of dead ends. So for me, it was an existential crisis that reminded me of false beliefs. That false beliefs are things that, you're stressed out to try to make it true. It's never going to work. You got to realize, hey, this false belief is saying that I'm a failure, I'm not good enough. No, the false belief is a failure, not good enough. I need some true beliefs, and then that'll bring out my incredible gifts to receive from the universe and to give to my society, my community, to help heal the planet. The beautiful fixer-upper Earth, I like to call it, fixer-upper Earth. What Earth really is a set of belief systems that support, a foundation that support higher beings, humans with free will, to come in and then build their cultures, explore their belief options. It's a really kind of a Wild West planet. It allows for a lot of things. But it doesn't mean it'll always be that way. No, because as you realize that you are the universe, each person is their own universe, you will put your foot down. You will set some limits. Hey, the way I can change to save the world is save myself. Make sure that I have a clarity, a purity of thought, so that I don't fall into false negative belief, stresses, getting judgmental, getting defensive, getting into the negative ego. The negative ego is what happens when your your positive ego, your human being self, is trying to get by on a whole bunch of stressful, false, negative beliefs, and it gets more and more survivalist. And you know how your mind kind of catastrophizes. You think of how bad things could be, and what would I have to do to survive that? Well, I guess I would do this. I would guess I'd do that. And then your mind goes further. Well, what if it's even worse? Well, then I would do that. Well, what if it's even worse? And at some point, you got to just say that's my ethical limit. I don't do any worse than that. Everybody has different ethical limits. So dictators, obviously, they don't care if they've dehumanized themselves so that they can turn around and dehumanize others. Dehumanizing meaning not respecting feelings, not caring about how people are, what kind of life people are having. You have to dehumanize yourself first, cut off your empathy, not care about yourself, run your life like a machine, just trying to maximize your money or your power or whatever. You have to dehumanize yourself first to be able to dehumanize others. That's the thing, is every consciousness, you have to do it to yourself and then try to get other people to do it to themselves along with you. It's all synchrony. It's all choreography. This is why, you can have an effect of seeming like people dominate each other. But what's happening is just, for one reason or another, a person comes into the presence of a person who does a lot of dominating to themselves, using fear, brutality on themselves. And for whatever reason, this person feels like, oh, I need to adopt some of that energy, do more of those things myself. And people come in and out of each other's orbits, adopting each other's lifestyles, feeling trapped, but no one's ever trapped. You can change yourself. You can leave. So in my 20s, I wanted to save the world, and then my guidance came in and like, Carl, okay, you quit that job, and that's fine, because that's the job where it was nice people, but you experienced an impossible assignment. I didn't realize this, and I'm speaking like now, understanding it better later. Back then, I was just like, I don't understand. But I started studying channeled teachings of a teacher named Lazarus, similar to Seth or Bashar, Abraham Hicks, a lot of this you create your own reality stuff, trying to help human beings, humanity understand that running your own consciousness is what then results in the people you meet, the kind of reality you have. Just learn to run your own consciousness better. And the evidence of how well you're running your consciousness is going to be pretty obvious. If you're a really, sweet, wise, creative, loving person, very, very, doesn't mean you're a pushover. It doesn't mean you put up with bullshit. It's just that you establish healthy boundaries. If you see people who are destructive, you don't get involved with them. You learn your lessons from a safe distance of all the people you see, and you wish them well. You don't wish harm on anyone. You just keep learning about how the universe works. So a healthy person is not like good versus evil, like the big Armageddon battles. It's like, no, that's how negativity thinks about the world. Negativity is all about, the solution is to get rid of the bad things, instead of the positive. Positive energy is like, the solution is to figure out how to manage, work well in a positive way with everything, a place for everything and everything in its place, how to live and let live. So that even negativity has a use. The use of, what is the use of, cruelty, negativity? Well, it's just an idea that you don't do. As soon as you start thinking about and considering doing something cruel and horrible, you feel really bad. Your human being freaks out. It's like, are you going to do that to me? Are you going to put me in a world like that? And you're like, no, I care about you. Thank you for having your feelings, my positive ego. A positive ego doesn't take you down a path of crazy survivalism and cutting off your feelings and doing horrible things to dominate and manipulate other people. A positive ego is just a human being who says, like, this is how I feel. What are we going to do? Then you go into the spirit side of you, and you make some better decisions, and you call upon further sides of you all the way back to your soul. So this goes back to a while I was saying the idea of some people refer to spirits as souls. What we're talking about is, I call it a spirit. It's the personality of you. And when you die, you never really die. You just get a new body. Okay? You go into the afterlife. So one great evidence we have, there are mystics, there are various people who experience in meditations or lucid dreams, different aspects of the afterlife. What happens after you die, physically die. But some of the coolest evidence we have is, and to mention the people who, the life between lives, I mentioned Michael Newton, the idea that he calls them souls. He calls it the destiny of souls. He interviews people who go through a past life regression, go into the death of that lifetime, which often resolves a phobia. Like somebody who's like deathly afraid of water, find out there could be a past life in which they drowned. Go through that past life, then a sort of release of that fear into like, well, you survived, you're back here in the present. See? That's more of a sense of sequential reincarnation of like, okay, I had a past life, it's over and done. I still had some phobias from it, some reactions from it, but the more I'm conscious of it, I can let it go. That's over. That's done with. Well, we'll get to more of what reincarnation really is, because it's never really done. What reincarnation really is simultaneous lifetimes of your soul. Your soul is your fundamental essence, personality, the kind of things you care about, the kind of gifts you bring to the universe, the kind of universe that you are. Like everybody adopts certain specialties, certain flavors of being the entire universe. What's my specialty? What's my thing? I mean, obviously, I care about helping people stay connected to the source. Okay, I don't like to see suffering in me, in my friends. If people insist on going through suffering with false beliefs, okay, I want to at least help them understand that, like, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. You're experimenting with beliefs. Does that feel bad? Then you don't have to keep believing that. But yeah, that's my soul is about understanding the positive universe, how to be a positive being with positive beliefs, connecting from an incarnation to your soul. The source is always here guiding you. People think that God is somewhere distant or God is even dead just because they're not listening to the guidance that's right here, right now. Instead, they get into the worst problems and think like, oh, I'm all alone with this. And then the negative ego comes up and they get survivalist and do horrible things, and like the history of, struggling, suffering humanity. But none of that is necessary. We could, okay, like, so Michael Newton, he calls them souls. I would call them spirits, but he in his past life regression hypnosis, he regresses someone through the death of their past life into the afterlife, interviews them. What's it like to go into the afterlife? And people come back with like remarkably consistent stories. So that's a data point. But an even more compelling data point, because it's so medical, it's so physical, it's so, amazing, near-death experiencers, people who are revived from a death state. They were actually going into the afterlife. Their body was like losing life. And they have some experience of usually like going through some kind of tunnel, getting to the light on the other side, being met by higher beings and or relatives, feeling this incredible love, this incredible bliss. That's how the universe really feels. If the universe is beautiful systems of life, all working perfectly, beautifully together, and it feels really, really good. Okay, it's bliss out. It's bliss time. And all your best peak moments of life, you're touching into that energy. You don't have to die to go to heaven. It's the energy of your greater eternal being. And you can tap into it while you're in a body. You can be a soul in a body. You can have, eternity in an hour. I'm trying to quote some William Blake anyway. Mystics tap into these things too. But the point is that near-death experiencers, people who die and they're medically revived. Now, they have always existed. There are various, I'm not a researcher. I'm going to talk more anecdotally, mystically, conversationally. I don't want to be I used to try to have lots of bullet points, lots of research. Why? Because I was trying to convince people. Why would I try to convince anyone? Don't try to convince people in life. Expand more of your own joy and just share it with whoever shows up that yeah, I've been thinking about that stuff too. Let's think it more together. Send each other higher. Don't try to change and force people. If you're trying to convert, change, fight, force people, whatever, no, what's happening there, you need to find your connection to that person, clarify your beliefs in some contrast to them, and let them go, okay? If they change and grow and catch up with you later, fine, but it's always about walking the path together. Ram Dass would say, we're just walking each other home. He was a really sweet 60s era, guru type. He was Richard Alpert. He was a Harvard professor who took entheogens, psychedelics, and went to India and studied a lot of consciousness. Anyways, he would say, we're all just walking each other home. We're walking the path together. Some people just cross paths with us. Just see them come in and let them go and learn a lesson from what kind of person they were. Because anything you see has to come from you. Okay? There's some reason why you're experiencing them. And if you feel trapped with negative people, negative situations, it's because you have a belief that you have to go in and through and, convert them and convince them. No, you're getting more involved with them than you need to. Just figure out why they showed up, why they crossed paths with you. And if you don't get along with them, if they believe a lot of things that you don't believe, if you're not good for each other, just get the lesson and let them go. But people are good for you. Well, they just naturally, they show up. If you're willing to let the law of attraction work, let the universe's love come through for you, it's a beautiful life. However, if there's also the law of repulsion, these people that you're repulsed by, like they upset you, they threaten you, they scare you. Don't buy the false beliefs that, oh, hold on tight to things that are bad for you and try to change them. No, even God can't change another person's mind, okay? That's why some people think God is dead. It's because they're thinking so unlike the way God would think that they're not in touch with God anymore. But God's still right there, like trying to give good advice. Like, so anyway, what am I trying to do here? I'm trying to give a sense of like going into the deeper philosophies. I just love to talk about this stuff. I try to make short videos. I was actually thinking like, I'll just make a 12, 15-minute video explaining how Christians reincarnate. How do Christians reincarnate? Very carefully. But it's good. It's a good exercise. I'm glad that I'm a reincarnated Christian theologian, a few of them, because I had to work out reincarnation in a deeper way that could include the Christian experience and near-death experiences and everything. That's the whole point, inclusivity. There's a larger set of explanations for where everything came from. There's a oneness behind everything. Even the things that fight the system and deny the oneness and cause a lot of problems and you don't want to hang out with, you just want to figure out like, what ways do you think like them and change that in yourself? But even the people who are anti-system are part of the system. The universe is very embracing that way. So you always look to build bridges, a bigger context, how everything can have a place and everything, and a place for everything, how it all fits together. So the inclusivity. So yeah, to come from Christianity. So the fact that I had been raised Presbyterian, I liked Jesus, I liked Ezekiel. But then through college, also having experience of my fundamentalist relatives, boy, they could be really nasty, going on and on about how everybody else is going to hell. That's not what Jesus taught, being that kind of judgmental. That's the whole point. Don't judge lest you be judged, because you're going to muddy your own bathwater. You know, if you pump out hate and judgments at people, it's your own energy. It's going to hit you. It's only going to hit other people if they agree to go into that same kind of headspace with you. Then their energy is doing it to them, and your energy is doing it to you, and you're in sync. But it's all parallelism, all parallel worlds, parallel realities. Like that's why it's a multiverse. And in science, they say multiverses can't really see each other, but they can and they can't. Basically, the more that you connect to your deepest source, your source self, your soul connected to the source that coordinates and connects all souls, you will have a resonance of love to honestly connect with other people. But a lot of people, you can see how like they're just so lost in their own projections and ideas. They're not really letting other people be real. People are caricatures to each other. I'm threatened by my ideas of you more than I actually know you. But that's the nature of consciousness. Don't try to make people wake up. Everybody will wake up in due time. Everybody will and does, because, well, all time is simultaneous. You know, it's whole systems. If somebody goes into ignorance and suffering, they also come back. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been there in the first place. So it's all kind of stretching loops. You know, how far do you want to stretch your loop into negativity until you master negativity and make peace with it and don't do it? So in my 30s, that's when I started becoming aware of reincarnation. So through my 20s, studying like channel material, learning about how you create your own reality, wishing I could be a full-time spiritual teacher, my guidance saying, don't worry, you will be someday. Just give this life stuff a chance. Because I tended to have sort of the usual sort of spiritual escapism. You know, you get these beautiful, perfect moments with the universe, and it's like, don't make me go back. That's what a lot of near-death experiencers, literally, like they die, they're in this heavenly, beautiful place with this unconditional love like they've never felt. They meet relatives, they meet higher beings, angels, they meet Jesus, and, or spiritual teachers of their tradition, don't make me go back. And it's hard, it's challenging for them to understand you want to go back, you already planned for this to work out, you're not done. So usually beings just say you're not done, and so spirits, these people who are temporarily in the afterlife and would love to stay, they go back. But near-death experiencers, they cannot tell you why the earth is such a challenging place. They can tell you how beautiful and amazing the other world is, which is what everybody can tell you to some degree. Everybody has some sense of like, there must be a paradise I came from. There must be there's another world. But why the world is the way it is here, because of false negative beliefs. And what to do about it, master those belief systems, refine yourself, make your connection to the divine resilient, and become your own self-creator, guided by the wisdom, love of the entire universe, which is backing you up. So, how long have I been talking? I still haven't gotten to the point of... So, in my early 30s, 34, age 34, big first awakening at 24, continuing, went back for software career jobs. Age 34, I'm like, this isn't working. Like, I'm so split. I have this like personal mystical life. I have these blissful, amazing, ecstatic times. And then I have my day job. And nobody I know really like is on my wavelength. Nobody really has the experiences I have. Nobody understands. People are nice to different degrees. People have, visions of the world could be a nicer place. But the way I'm feeling about the divine, like, how do I make the connection? And I was kind of considering, like, should I just give up? Should I just try to have like a materialistic life, just make the money, follow the rules, have a family, whatever. And what happened is I had this breakthrough. I just got more and more inspiration. I ended up doing sort of a blowout of like, I took a bunch of my poetry, little stories I written, sort of different styles of sort of philosophical, idealistic stuff. And I rented a table at a holistic health expo. This is in November 1997 in Boston. At the castle, they had this armory there. And, all these other vendors are around, selling various products. I'm just like this idealistic mystic with a bunch of like, I don't know, $1 a piece, Xerox collections of like half mad, ecstatic, little stories and poems. And I admit, I was kind of a mess. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just very inspired. And a lot of interesting things happened. Like the people I met, especially made friends with this ex-Benedictine nun who's hanging out with me. And I remember one guy coming up to me and saying, there is so much more about yourself that you need to understand, and you will soon. It's just like, so at the end of the weekend, this is in Boston, I take the bus back through Harvard Square. And on the bus in Harvard Square, I was just like, okay, universe, like I gave it my best shot. I've been making a lot of music that had put me into ultra wonderful, happy states. I did this holistic health expo. I don't know what it all means. Should I just stop being so dramatic and idealistic and just be a software engineer? And then this voice really, very clearly in my head said, like, look at the newspaper next to you. 1997, actual printed newspapers on the bus. Can you imagine? So I pick up a newspaper that's laying on the seat next to me, open it up to the page. My eyes go straight to this article about next year is the 900th birthday of Hildegard of Bingen, a medieval mystical nun, composer, polymath, and they're, look forward to celebrations and some concert review or something. And my brain exploded. Just like, oh my God, that's me. Oh my God, they remember us. I was weeping. I was like, my brain just kept shouting it. I was not in control of my own brain is just shouting like, that's me. That's us. They remember us. Very much an us feeling. Remember, very much a community of my soul, a community of the people in her abbey, So yeah, I'm Hildegard of Bingen. I've had many, many experiences since then of, talking with her, dreaming with her, visions and just guiding each other. And that's the point. Like, she's alive and well. I'm alive and well. This is where it blows people's circuits. So it's like, look, time and space are invented by consciousness, okay? So of course, whatever needs to happen is possible. So people get all bent out of shape. So the Christians can be really anti-reincarnation because they want to think that, well, we're going to do what Jesus did. We're going to die and we're going to wait to be resurrected. Well, none of the near-death experiencers, people who actually medically die, then proceed to just lay there until Jesus comes gets them or something. No, they proceed on into the afterlife. So look, the whole idea of, Jesus died and was resurrected. It's literal. It's true. He did. He also performed miracles. He was very much connected with the divine, and anything could happen for love. He was the most loving, amazing, wonderful person. He had very profound philosophies for how to deal with your enemies. Well, pray for them and also let them go. When one guy said to him, I want to follow you, Jesus, but first my family has a funeral. Can you wait while I go to the funeral? He said, let the dead bury the dead. Come follow me now. In other words, for that man's case, let go of your family. Forget it. They aren't who you need to be with. So very much a sense with Jesus of have unconditional love, praying for, caring about, wishing harm to none, and be very clear about your principles, your values, and let go people who you don't belong with. So then the question is, well, why did he die? Well, he was asked to. It's like, he made it very clear. He talked about it to his disciples. He's like, I'm going to die. I'm going to fulfill a prophecy. What he was doing, what he was showing, was how much your soul, the divine, is as powerful as the Creator is. The Creator's not going to force anything on you. If you want to kill your connection to the divine, you can. If people wanted to kill Jesus, they could kill Jesus. Does he actually die? Only temporarily, and then his body was literally, physically resurrected. Did he stay in that resurrected state? No. He hung out for a bit, let everyone know, when he talked about eternal life and resurrection, he meant it literally. Whenever you need to be resurrected, yes. And then he ascended to heaven. He also rose from the dead Lazarus. Now, we don't know what happened to Lazarus, right? And I remember a great science fiction story when I was a kid, how Lazarus proceeded to wander around, and it was a silly drama of he became a zombie or something. It's no, but presumably Lazarus had a nice, it was a near-death experience. Presumably he came back with wonderful stories of the afterlife and proceeded to live out the rest of his normal life. But then Christians, they get this whole idea of oh no, we got to do what Jesus did. We got to wait in the ground, wait until God comes and then different visions and extrapolations, and people end up getting very bent out of shape about the idea of reincarnation. You can't possibly go become somebody else. You're going to be only yourself. Hebrews 9:27 verse is often basically the Bible says next to nothing about reincarnation. If anything, in some places it implies reincarnation, because there's one point where Jesus was discussing the return of Elijah and saying that it's John the Baptist, and then people who are really Christian anti-reincarnation, they say no, Jesus he's talking in parables. Obviously, because there's another part where his disciples saw Jesus talking to the spirit of Elijah. So these Christians' logic is well, if Jesus is talking to Elijah can't also be John the Baptist reincarnated. It's why not? Your spirit is in multiple places. So this is the real point, is time is simultaneous. Everything's happening now. Connect the dots any way that works. So a part of you goes into the afterlife, and a part of you stays in the afterlife. And, you know, I knew this one person, she had her near-death experience. She met her guide, this guy she didn't know, but really wonderful. She felt like a deep soul knowing of him. Her guide, he helps her to understand she needs to go back. And to her shock, she meets a guy. She meets that guy who she saw in the afterlife on Earth. He's a spiritual teacher somewhere. And she contacts him, and he's like, oh, yeah, I've had some people say that they see me in the afterlife. On the other side, apparently, I'm a guide. You know, like you seem familiar to me. I think there are multiple levels of consciousness going on, okay? It's not a problem. And people get so bent out of shape about sequential reincarnation. Like, you know, well, how could this person be that person reincarnated? There wasn't that much time between their lifetimes, or they even overlapped. When you go into the other world, the so-called afterlife, you know, you definitely go there when your physical body dies. You can also go there anytime, you know, have an out-of-body experience, a meditation, a lucid dream. It's like, it's just an energetic state where a lot more things are possible. But yeah, I'm saying sequential reincarnation, like, yeah, it's all parallel anyway. So it isn't like a certain amount of time is required to be between lifetimes. Even in the afterlife, even just like interviewing spirits, whom he calls souls, the Dr. Michael Newton, interviewing people, he regresses into the afterlife from their past life death, and they talk about how time is different there. They still have the idea of time, they still play with time, but time is a lot more flexible. It's more of a dimension you can move in, where just like we can move in 3 dimensions physically, but time we're kind of committed to, that's the human part of ourselves, committed to going through a certain pace of things. But our greater spiritual consciousness, right, we can step back at any time. We can imagine things, you know, for better or worse. So anyway, with reincarnation, it's not sequential, that you can go into the afterlife and a part of you stays there, and a part of you could actually still be on Earth. You could be a spirit guide there and on Earth having a lifetime here right now. And basically what happens is, in the next world, the afterlife, which is also called the emotional plane or the astral plane, it's where you go when you die. It's also where you go when you dream. Maybe different levels of it, but you can have dreams where you go to heavenly cities and you meet spirits and they're like, oh, hey, look, it's a live one visiting. It's like, these things happen, okay? So what happens is there are more and more levels of consciousness, all the way up to your soul, which is such an embracing state of consciousness of your true essence, what you really care about, your way of loving, that it can be aware of many lifetimes. So when you connect up to your soul, that's when you can connect to being another lifetime right here, right now, okay? Simultaneous. It's not sequential. Some people want to think their lives are sequential because, you know, God, they got to get rid of that traumatic lifetime. Let it be dead and over with. It's more complex and subtle if, like, hey, that lifetime is still around, but you can both upgrade together. You can talk with each other, you can learn from each other, you can influence each other. Lifetimes influence each other. And they become aware of each other by law of attraction, just like we become aware of, in the physical world, of totally other people. We can become aware in this more spiritual plane of the emotional plane, the astral plane of other lifetimes. And so the point I want to make is reincarnation, classic reincarnation comes about. Here's the deal. Here's the progression. Christians believe, insofar as the Hebrews line, I didn't say it, but it is appointed for men to die once, and after this is the judgment. And so lots of people like to say, there's no reincarnation. You die once, and then you have the judgment. They're just thinking very literally. You die, you have to wait in the ground until Jesus comes and takes you to heaven forever. Well, that is one way to experience things. For one thing, you do die and you get a new body, in a sense of finding out, like, oh, I'm alive again in the afterlife. You get a new body in the afterlife. And so then in the afterlife, you go through a life review. near-death experiencers who are still going to come back. Some of them have a life review. In that, what happens is you collect all the things you didn't take responsibility for, that you didn't care about in your life. So if you're a good person who's trying to care and trying to stay in touch empathically with other people, you'll do okay. You be kind of humbled by some of the mistakes you made, whatever. But if you're a dictator, if you're a narcissist, if you're a brutal person, the afterlife is hell, literally. You collect all the feelings that you thought you were doing to other people, but it's your energy, it's your bathtub, it's your bed. You made your bed, you got to lay in it. Different phrases, idioms here relevant. The point is that in the afterlife, dictators, brutal people, all the stuff that they were trying to segregate and separate, because negativity is all about segregating and separating and dumping your stuff that you don't want on other people and pretending it's gone. Well, you collect all your stuff in the afterlife. So yeah, there are lower levels of the afterlife, lower astral zones, where it's basically like a hell. It's people, in the throes of experiencing the nasty emotions, the nasty decisions that they didn't want to deal with in their life. They were hoping they were just going to die and never have to deal with it. Well, they do have to deal with it. So there are lower astral zones that are kind of a hell. They're more like a purgatory, though. There are no demons there. Okay, I saw no demons in my vision when I was 4 years old. Remember, I said that earlier. If I was highly influenced by my fundamentalist Baptist uncle with his nasty little chick comic tracks of all the different kinds of people that are going to hell unless you join their church, in those visions there are demons torturing you. No, there are no demons. The vision I saw as 4 years old was just this cavern, this vast pit with all these levels of people feeling very alone and scared and wailing, crying out for help. That's all it is. It's people in their emotions, and they don't know how to process them. Physical Earth is a really great place to process emotions. You got the help of your physical body, which is locked in, committed to experiencing the consequences of your choices. So you got a lot of a beautiful golden opportunity while you're physically alive to feel your body's feelings, to care about your body, care about your human self. When you die, you're going to have to pick up on that energy directly, and you can get locked into, nobody's forever, but you go into these lower astral zones that are like a hell. Watch this movie called Astral City. That's the English translation of Nosso Lar, is our home in Portuguese. Brazil is really into spiritualism, connecting with spirits. And their greatest medium ever, medium is somebody who's very sensitive to picking up on spirits. Their greatest medium, real humanitarian, donated all of his money to charity, really wonderful, wonderful man, Chico Xavier, national hero, national treasure in Brazil. He channeled over 400 books. His most successful writing partnership was with a spirit who was a doctor during his life, and describes his whole journey into the afterlife. And because this doctor, he wasn't a cruel person, but he was quite self-centered and self-serving, and he didn't deal with a lot of his emotions about people. And yeah, so he went into a kind of a hellish place in the afterlife for a while, but he prayed for mercy. And as soon as you open up to higher powers, please, I give up, I can't do anymore, I don't know what to do, help me. You just reach that point of honestly, I don't know what I'm doing. As long as you still have negative ego ideas of I know what to do, I know what to they're out to get me, but I'm going to get them, and I'm going to tell the world, and oh no, I know too much, now they're out to get me, but I'm going to have to get more people. All these mind games. Oh my God. The only devils are the thought forms, the things you create, forms of yourself. But so yeah, he went into an afterlife hell for a little while, called for help, taken to a higher level of the astral zone, a heavenly city, and in that afterlife, he learned how to be a truly empathic, caring doctor, rather than a kind of selfish, materialistic doctor that he was on Earth, and to work with energies and love, and and then he transmits his story to the medium Chico Javier. So this is a true story with full budget special effects, the most wonderful, amazing, fantastic movie. You got to see it. It's like What Dreams May Come. Some people know that movie with Robin Williams about the afterlife. Very like Hollywood dramatic. I mean, basic ideas are there, but so overplayed, so dramatized that it kind of like, you know, makes me kind of dizzy and nauseous. Whereas What Dreams May Come, I'm sorry, I don't want to diss it in any way. It's a wonderful movie and in many ways, but the Astral City, oh my God, it's so sweet, it's so beautiful and so realistic, and it's not overwrought. And so the point is that in the afterlife, when reincarnation comes around, it shows it in that movie Astral City. At some point, the spirits who are, you know, in this astral city, in this afterlife city, where very much people continue the same kind of life they have here, but they get more in touch with the real truths of the universe, work more directly with energy. But they still have the same kind of personalities. They're learning to do a better job of really helping others, helping themselves, and how the universe really works. The doctor at that level of the afterlife, they see people who at some point decide to try life again. Well, let's go back, let's get reincarnated, and they experience a certain sadness of that. It's like, oh, now we're not going to be as easy to connect with you, because when you're fully in the physical body, until you're trained, your human being can be trained to be in full connection with the spiritual world. No problem, don't worry. Being human is not a prison. The prison is the false negative beliefs. Being human, it's good, it's wonderful that a large part of your consciousness is fully committed to being in the body, because that urges you, draws you to connect with the spirit world and educate yourself, become educated, and connect, raise your vibration. That's what's called the ascension. It's all about raising your vibration so you can be spirit and human together. You don't have to die to go to heaven. You have heaven on earth. You know the source is here, guiding you around all the problems, all the challenges. You don't have to go into hells in the afterlife. You don't have to go into hells here with getting involved with people you don't belong with. You can always be guided to learn life lessons. The source is here. Your higher self, your soul are right here. You could have a wonderful life. It doesn't mean that suddenly everything becomes perfect, because it's the objective things aren't what matter. What matters is what you do with what you have, not what you have. It's how you approach life. That's what's real. The energy of how you understand things, how your vision of where you're trying to take things, your intentions, that energy, that's what's real. Your love, your wisdom, that's what's real. And when you realize that, well, that's what's real, and the rest of this is kind of shared form, constructs, beliefs, then people who function very differently from me, people who think of the world in a totally different way, think of bad guys and good guys, and they're unempathic, and they just want to scheme and control, their energy is so different from mine. Why am I in the same world with them? You're not. You're in a totally different world. You could just see and learn from them, their existence from a distance. Anybody you cross paths with, it's because you have a belief in you that is connecting you. Maybe it's the same belief those people are believing, or maybe it's a different belief, like such as there are plenty of people like you have lots of disagreements with, but you think you have to get along with them for some reason. You think, you can't possibly disagree and get, cut off, disowned by your family and friends or whatever. You think that there's no other better place for you. You have to hang on, stay in these dysfunctional, codependent relationships where you torture each other. No, you don't have to stay. There's always a good place for you. The universe has a beautiful, wonderful, functioning place for you. People start to get used to suffering. They forget, they don't believe as strongly that there's a good place for them because they've been experimenting with the false beliefs to trigger their own consciousness. Negative false beliefs feel bad. You care about yourself. You bring in more. You're highly motivated to bring in more of the teachings of how the universe really works. You learn more to be your own creator rather than beings who incarnate on planets that are so positive, so wonderful. It's not really clear who's doing what. It's just everybody's going along with a wonderful flow. On earth, you learn to really I know what I can do. I know I'm totally in charge. And then, see, when you're not fragile, see, a lot of beginners in their spirituality, beginners in religion, they're very fragile, right? It's like, oh no, don't tell me bad things. Oh no, it's the devil. It's like there's a fragility there because they are so lost in some negative beliefs. They don't have a perspective of look, I'm good. The false belief is bad. The false belief that says I'm so bad is what's so bad. The false belief that says I'm a failure is the only thing about me that's a failure. As soon as I get rid of the false beliefs, I'll be a winner. I'll be amazing. But in the beginning, people are, people are confused. People forget how divine they are. And it's a testament to just how powerful the experience is, to experience the reality from inside the beliefs, to be inside of the simulation, to have an avatar in the game, skin in the game. So you're learning to work with your human being, and some people reincarnate. They go, they die, they are resurrected in that sense of they get a new body in the afterlife. Well, surprise, I'm alive. It feels even better here. And they spend some time in the afterlife, and they learn as much as they can there until they hit a wall. They hit a ceiling. They can't go higher from there. So I guess I'll go back. And they have to go back because they sort of segregated, left a lot of their sort of emotional baggage back in their earth mindset. So they have to go back. So some parts of you will reincarnate and go down and go back again. Other parts of you will stay in there in the afterlife. So that's why you could have somebody who's a spirit guide active in the afterlife and also on earth. And they can be on earth in multiple incarnations at the same time. And then there are higher parts of them that do graduate from that state of consciousness. I've done enough reincarnating. I'm ready to explore some higher realms. There are levels of your consciousness at every level. Time is all simultaneous. It's stringing pearls. All the great moments of your life, all the great moments of your consciousness, they're all there simultaneously. You're stringing pearls. You're making stories, creating chronologies to visit it all, to get to know your own universe. So I suppose this is kind of a long-winded sharing of how reincarnation really works. But it really matters because, I discovered that I was this Christian mystic theologian, Hildegard of Bingen. And from there, I had never particularly believed in reincarnation, but oh my God, when you feel it, oh my God, I have an immortal, eternal soul. It's amazing. Many people experience that when they meet somebody who's very important to their soul and they know from many lifetimes. They're suddenly I know you from other places. I feel a greater depth of myself. It's amazing. I met my twin soul. It's a whole nother story about how souls are born in pairs to balance the energies. They don't really know how to, so they're sort of entangled partners. So, and the twin soul, it's even more intense than a soulmate. A soulmate is simply somebody you get along with well for certain reliable interactions. It may even be a bad interaction, but somebody you have recurring reliable interactions with. A twin soul takes you back to when I was created, whatever it means for an eternal soul being to be created. But in some sense you were created. You're part of a larger set that created you. Anyway, the point is that where am I going here? So Hildegard of Bingen, I realize I'm her, and this is in 1998 now. And I'm just I'm having visions with her, and I'm talking with her, and I read a little bit of her writings, and oh my God, it echoes and resonates in my brain. And I open up to the idea of reincarnation, and then other spirits come visit me, and I wonder am I those spirits too? And it took me a while to sort out, the feelings of your actual other incarnations of your soul. You always become more together. You always find more ways that you connect. Whereas other beings who are, soulmates, partners, whatever, some I meet in this lifetime, so very clearly they're another person. Some come to me as spirits, and I may think for a while, like, wow, we get along so well. Are we the same soul? But something feels a little off. And eventually I realize things about them. It's like, yeah, you're really a different personality. You're not me. You're a great friend. That's great. An example of this would be Carolus Linnaeus. So he's a Swedish botanist in the 1700s who came up with the Latin nomenclature, like 2 Latin names for all plants and so on, plants and animals. He came up with that Latin nomenclature. He was just a naturalist, a botanist who's so into nature. He loved it. And I was a student of his. But for a while, I thought I was him because he was visiting me and we'd get along so well. But it's because we are friends, we do sort of compatible things. I've had visions where together, like, we're watching the creation, we're watching the center of creation and new beings come out of it. And he names them and names their characteristics while I describe their connection back to the source. Because I always I'm concerned with keeping things connected to the source. And he was really into, like, helping organize the system of awareness so that all the beings could flourish in their own right. It's having different names. Naming is wonderful. Naming helps you to become more consciously aware of all the detail. That's what the eternity is about, okay? So it's such an early stage of the game to play around with good and evil and have some kind of apocalyptic battle metaphors and realize, like, at some point you decide to be done with negativity forever. You know what happens when you're done with negativity forever? No more good and evil. There's only good and better. Lazarus taught me about this. But there's only good and better. It's good is your way for you, even better is my way for me. Everybody gets along, diversity and harmony. Nobody's at each other's throat in conflict. Everybody's responsible for their own universe. I'm growing with my soul, and I meet compatible friends, and we do amazing projects together for the rest of eternity. It's wonderful. So with reincarnation, I mean, I was just so, oh my God, I was so excited. Like, this is big. This is really big. Age 24, I tapped into, like, there's God and the universe is real, but I didn't really know how I fit in with that. And in my insecurity, I want to save the world. This whole projection, I'm going to go out and tell other people what to do. And if everybody would just talk about spiritual stuff and be nice, I might feel safe to, like, figure out how I really fit with God. Well, no, you're going to have to learn how to fit with God and allow there to be unsafe people that God guides you around. So it wasn't until 34, discovering I'm Hildegard, like, oh my God, I really feel my soul. I'm talking to other spirits, figuring out, like, my connections to them. And I was just so thrilled. I was sure, I was positive, like, surely, I mean, there are academics, theologians, and various spiritual seekers, students who really admire Hildegard. They're going to be so psyched that she's back, in a sense. She's like my sister. She's the version of my soul in her time is her. The version of our soul in my time is me. But we have so many deep connections with each other. We overlap in many ways. So it's just like, oh my God, they're going to be so thrilled to hear. Like, and then I try to tell people, and they're like, so many Christians were just like they think I'm crazy. They think I'm, anti-Christian, like, oh, you're one of those Buddhist Hinduists who are into reincarnation. Well, that's so non-Christian. That's not what Jesus taught. Really? What did Jesus taught? I had my own separate story, a wonderful, amazing vision of Jesus that really connected me with Hildegard too. But so, yeah, it really hurt. It really hurt, but I didn't have to be so hurt. What I needed was to just understand from the beginning, like, oh, Christians are raised, they don't understand energy and the afterlife and spirit so much that they could see how it all fits together. It's like, yes, there's a kind of resurrection into the afterlife, and you can stay there as long as you want until you're ready to reincarnate. And a part of you will always be there, and a part of you can reincarnate, and they're all simultaneous. And it's like, simultaneous incarnations that you can talk to, that's a stretch for a lot of people who believe in sequential reincarnation. So always be willing to have a bigger context for how it can all work in the most beautiful, wonderful ways. So it really hurt my feelings. I contacted a lot of like Christian theologians, people who wrote about Hildegard, and they were so offended, and they didn't get back to me, or they just said you're blasphemous, you're crazy. Some people thought I was working with evil spirits. It hurt. It hurt my feelings, and it reinforced my false beliefs that I couldn't fit into the world. But I could fit into the world. These days, I just see with a lot more clarity and compassion. So a few days ago, the reason why I'm doing this, how Christians can better understand reincarnation, to free your soul, to better understand Jesus' teachings, to understand that there's nothing anti-reincarnation in the Bible. At most, it refers to the experience of being saved, brought into the afterlife. There's a Hildegard Studies Facebook page that's highly respectable, a lot of really wonderful people on it. And I've thought many times over the years, I've flirted with saying like, I'm here, but I've since learned, I learned long ago, like, don't try to come out so much. Just be me. I'm busy being me. And I've had plenty of wonderful magical opportunities where it's like, go ahead, tell that person. Like, oh, this one time, this was only a few months after discovering that I was Hildegard in 1998. I'm on the subway and I'm feeling really like I'm just so high and blissed out. Oh my God, I'm Hildegard. I'm an eternal soul. I'm working on being Carl. This is amazing. Like I'm so validated to be a mystic. It's all going to work out. I want to be a spiritual teacher someday. I want to figure out how to really be strong, clear, connected with the source and help other people be as connected as they can be. And, just to see a wonderful soul-based world. I mean, people come alive. You discover your passions. Look at how passionate I am. Okay, maybe I talk too much too fast. I don't know. But for some people, they're just the pure energy. Like, this is my soul. Like, I don't take personal credit for it. This is just how beautiful the whole system works. If you're going to take credit for it, be the universe that you are. And then, you're a wonderful universe. And you see how people are running their universe. Somebody who's really messed up, a bully, they're running their universe in a really dysfunctional way. But their greater self, their soul is always calling them, guiding them. We're all going to you just keep getting better at being you, the real you. Don't worry. Like when you spiritually grow, you give up the bad things, the things you never liked, the things that held you back. You can always have more of the true you. So I was saying with, Hildegard scholars, they rejecting me in this Facebook page recently. I was guided to I just had this idea of I was saying a little story about Hildegard. Oh yeah, I was on the subway. Was it no, it was a bus. It was a bus outside of Davis Square, where I was living in Somerville, Massachusetts. And I was on the bus, and I was just feeling like, no, maybe it was the subway. I'm just remembering the seats there. Anyway, the point is that I was like, oh, I wish there was somebody I could tell that I'm Hildegard. I wish there was somebody I could talk about it with. There had been nobody. I'm having these amazing experiences. My friends and family think I'm crazy. I just like learning to not talk about it when I would love to talk about it. And this voice in my head said, tell the woman next to you. Look, and there's this, it's like, I just asked her, do you know Hildegard of Bingen? And she's like, oh, I love Hildegard. She's like, she had sung Hildegard wrote this sort of early opera, a sung morality play called the Ordo Virtutum. And this woman, Bina, she had been a really good singer, and she actually did a tour in Italy singing the virtues, the primary virtue, the personified characteristics of divine qualities, the virtues, played by the nuns in her abbey. That Hildegard composed this morality play. It's a story of the soul going through the world, being tempted by the devil, finally learning to say no to negativity and becoming a free soul and be able to return to the virtues. And that Bina had sung one of these parts when she was in Italy. Went on this Italian tour singing that. And she said it was the most amazing time of her life, and that she was in a museum there, and she saw a painting of some Italian noble, and she's like, oh my God, that's me. That's me. She just knew it. And I'm like, and I just could tell her, like, oh my God, I had that experience recently. Like, I'm Hildegard. And she's like, oh my God. And, you know, she's like, we could just feel it. We were each just telling the truth. And what I ultimately felt was like, she knew Hildegard personally at the time. She and I are together on a bus or subway, whatever, those bucket seats. And at the same time, we're also back in Hildegard's time. She's one of the nuns in Hildegard's Abbey, and probably did a lot of the cooking, because she does a lot of cooking in this lifetime. She loves to cook. At the time, she had just gotten a job cooking meals for the Paulist fathers in Boston. She was really excited about that. So anyway, it just shows you how magical life can be. Just loosen up, all you Christian people. So I put on this Christian Facebook page, admiring Hildegard, this Hildegard von Bingen studies page, international studies. Anyway, I just got this like hint from Hildegard, like, why don't you just sort of feel it out? Just say to them, like, make a post like, wouldn't it be amazing if reincarnation was true, if Hildegard could come back, if anyone claimed to be Hildegard, what qualities of their soul, what would convince you that they would make a good Hildegard? I mean, I think I make a good Hildegard. I mean, I've been passionately doing Hildegard type stuff all my life. She and I, we're concerned about the same spiritual, theological solutions, needs. We have the same issues. It's like, so anyway, just put this, and I was shocked. Like, I just thought it'd be a playful, fun question, and all these people would say, like, well, what I like about Hildegard is this, so I would hope she would do this, or whatever. Instead, all these people slamming me, like, you're not a Christian, you don't even belong on this page. Reincarnation is not a Christian belief. Hildegard would never be reincarnated. She's a spirit, like, she's helping people. She can't be reincarnated. I'm like, oh man, these people they're so locked into, they're the dogmatic, linear one view of how the afterlife works. Like, so a few people, well, we'll see how it evolves. But basically, from this experience of realizing, like, wow, these people are like hitting in my face with how much they really fundamentally are against reincarnation. And this apparently goes back to the first or second council of one of those councils, Constantinople or Nicaea, around like the first, 300 AD to 700 AD, in that range, the early church working things out. And they really got rid of reincarnation. They wanted to make it very clear. It's literally, you have to die and wait for Jesus to come back to you and resurrect you. And then you get these rapture Christians with these fantasies of like all the spirits, like we're pulled out of our bodies. We don't have to die, but we will be pulled out of our bodies, and the bad people will be left behind. That's how we get rid of the bad people. You don't get rid of bad people because the bad people are projections of your own consciousness. There's a part of you that you're thinking of as bad, and it probably feels really bad. You need to work on that. That's called shadow work. Popular term from Carl Jung, or dark night of the soul kind of work from St. John of the Cross and Teresa of Avila, his friend. And just like, so yeah, lots of mystics, lots of people wrestling your demons. So you have to go through a period of discovering the parts of you that are against you, that are defensive because of false beliefs, and you realize, like, you don't have to argue and fight with your demons, fight with other people. Just change your beliefs. Just connect with more of the real, loving, living universe. So wanting to make, I realized I want to make a video like I'm making here now. Maybe I didn't think it would be so long, but I did think, well, what the heck? And I'm going to just chat and just ramble, because that's what I'm doing more. I want to evidence, I want to exhibit, I want to share with you what it's like to be really connected with the source and still human. You have your good days, your bad days, but I have mostly good days these days. I'm concerned about the future, and that's why I stay on top of things. I don't go into a lot of fear and paralysis. I have a lot of really nice spiritual, humanistic, ethical friends who are so freaked out about, this combination of like nature's dying and people are following dictators. It's like, when does that change? Well, just keep waking yourself up. I just want to help people. Just don't worry. Just everyone's in their own reality. Keep cleaning yourself up, cleaning up your consciousness, and expect miracles. Don't worry. Like the ETs, the angels, the higher beings, they can intervene. Just you be as prepared as you can to be ready to okay, I've done all the work I can. Go ahead, lift some of the other problems. There's always going to be stuff you can't do with yourself. If you think you can do everything yourself, you're in your negative ego. No, and to let go of your negative ego, you're going to have times where you tap into this really defensive, nasty, hostile part of yourself. I hate it all, fuck it all, just be aware it's there. Don't try to kill it. Don't try to deny it. Don't think it means you're a bad person. Don't go into all the false beliefs that it's trying to survive on. Just surrender it. You do your best and you surrender to your higher self, to your soul, to the source. Just say here's my best and here's my worst. I did some work and I on myself and I believed more of the good stuff and I had some good experiences and I really love and care about this. And here's the bad stuff. I'm still really freaked out and hostile and defensive and hopeless over here. I have some negative beliefs that I can't seem to get a handle on. I'm just kind of lost in it. It just makes me feel so bad, makes the world look bad. Just surrender it. Just go through cycles of doing what you can and then surrender. Doing what you can and surrender. When you surrender, you're letting go of the bad stuff. Don't worry. You're not losing any of the good stuff. Your higher self, you're the greater universe. They already have all of your good stuff for you. If you drop anything, they'll pick it up, the good stuff. But when you drop the stuff that doesn't work for you, it's an energy. It's like a false belief that isn't good for anyone, but some people are tinkering with it to find themselves, or maybe it's simply a belief, in that good and better world, where it's hey, it's good for you to be a dentist. It's better for me to be a doctor. It's good for you to be a parent. It's better for me to be a park ranger. I don't know, whatever. It's but yeah, so. It made me feel really good to realize after all these years of feeling so alienated, so rejected, so unwanted, so hurt because no Christians, theologians wanted to talk to Hildegard to meet her reincarnation, a reincarnation. And then to finally, all these years later, realize hey, don't take it personally. It's just a belief system. These people are trapped in a dogma. I want to help more Christians wake up. And apparently a lot of Christians are waking up, and it's pretty loose. It's still a majority are very anti-reincarnation, even if they're not racist, bigoted, whatever. Even if they're pretty nice, humanistic Christians, they just tend to think reincarnation, that's false, that's wrong. One person was saying how dare you say Hildegard is a reincarnation? Well, one identified that would seem very similar, people could see the connections, would be Julian of Norwich. Now, so we're talking Hildegard is 1100s, Julian of Norwich is 1300s. So Julian of Norwich, she chose by herself more of a secluded lifestyle, Hildegard started out as. I don't want to go into all the historical details, but Julian of Norwich is really admired for, she had visions with Jesus and talked a lot about divine love, trying to explain how it is that the sins of the world will turn out okay. It will all be okay in the end. Her most famous quote, all shall be well and all shall be all well and all manner of things shall be well. She didn't say that. Jesus said that to her. She was agonizing. It was, a lot of brutality in medieval Europe. The plague is going on, and she's having this. She was having some sort of near-death experience. She was on her deathbed, and Jesus came to her, and she's like, Jesus, you're here. Explain to me. If God could create anything, why didn't He create a creation with no suffering, with no pain, with no sin? Why sin being a mistake? It doesn't mean you're bad, okay? That's false beliefs say you're bad, you're awful. No, Sin is just means you made a mistake. It's okay. God forgives you. God will explain things. You had a good intention and you tried this and it actually had an effect of hurting people when you really wanted to help people. So just back up and admit, oh, I did that. I'm sorry. Catch your mistakes early and don't worry. Let divine healing come in. But the false beliefs lock you in as like, oh, I'm bad. You're so bad. You're awful. You're ashamed. Like, hide from God. Try to fix it all by yourself. Well, doing it all by yourself, that's going to guarantee you're in negative ego. Only a negative ego thinks that it can get rid of a negative ego. Its own, oh, I'm not in negative ego. I don't have any negative ego anymore. I got rid of that long ago. Yeah, right. But so Julian of Norwich, I suggested, like, well, you know, there's a good comparison, right? I figured like all these people would say like, yeah, Julian of Norwich would make a good Hildegard. And instead, several people were saying like, how dare you you know, belittle the achievements of these two women? You know, their greatness was because they were each from God, not because they have the same soul. And it's like, why is there any mutual exclusivity there? It's like souls come from God. Many lives come from one soul. Each life is its own spirit with its own personality. They are like siblings of the same soul family. You know, but they don't have a larger context of the whole life cycle of the lifetimes of the spirit of the soul. So they were taking offense that, you know, I would say that two people are not totally separate and unique. It's like, and yet people want to say like, we're all great because of God. So like, if we're all great because of God and without God, we're just sort of sinners and lost. And that's fine to say, but then so why is it not good to say, well, then we all, you know, we're great because people who have the same soul are great because they have the same soul, and without the soul they would be, you know, sort of lost and sinners. It's like, why is God okay to be behind everyone, but a soul can't be behind groups of people when the soul has God, the source behind that? It's just larger hierarchies. Expand your mind. That's the point of this sharing that I'm doing. So yeah, I've talked a while as usual. I can't make short stuff. I'll cut some segments out. But the point is, please, if you're trying to reconcile Christianity and reincarnation, don't worry, they fit fine. And if you're trying to reconcile sequential reincarnation with some awareness of like, hey, some lifetimes overlap, there isn't that much time between them, or like, how can like you be here and I'm there, and how can I be talking to my other lifetimes like they're still around? It's simultaneous incarnations of the same soul. You have such commonalities that you're like siblings, and you can overlap, and you can be really, really wonderful friends forever. And you in turn connect well with the other souls, soul groupings. Oh my gosh, there's just endless ways that all the souls that belong together hang out together, do beautiful things together. So I think I'm pretty talked out here. This is pretty good. You know what? I'll say, just to sort of end the speculation, who does Carl say he is of Christian theologians, right? So let's not take this as my ego, okay? That was a big concern of mine in 1998, okay? When I first discovered I was Hildegard, I was very concerned with like, this isn't ego. I am not trying to say I'm so great. I'm reading about Hildegard of Bingen. It's like, wow, she's pretty awesome. To me, she's like my big sister. She's like, oh my God, thank God. Somebody in my soul family shows that like my value, my worth, my passion for being connected to the divine, it means something. It's great. It's like, it really, you know, Hildegard was like really admired in her lifetime. I have other lifetimes that are more admired after they were gone, like Julian of Norwich, more venerated later. Because her book, she wrote a book, Julian did, about Jesus and God, characterizing God is very much like a mother God. And it was a more feminine, divine feminine, motherly view of God than most people wanted. So she wrote a book that was not really picked up in, you know, maybe small circles of admirers. But it wasn't until much later that she was really admired. But anyway, so let's run through what I know, okay? Here's what I know. This is really just to glorify souls. Oh, yes, something I wanted to say. See, I made a whole different video about how reincarnation really works. So I talked more about these kind of things. But this is more passionate, off the cuff, off the top of my head, in response to the agony of, feeling so unwanted, because if you're Christian and discover you're reincarnated, they probably aren't going to want to talk to you. That could hurt for a while. And you're finding your greatest joy is like, oh my God, souls connect people. Like, let's talk about it. And so many people don't want to talk about it for various reasons. It's bringing their skeletons out of their closet. They're not ready. If people aren't ready, don't push it. Yeah. I'm just thinking of different anecdotes. There's so many. It's fun to talk about this stuff. It's very exciting. It's energizing for me. But without sounding an ego, just glorifying that creation works this way, and completely respecting people who may think for a while that they're Hildegard, but what's really happening, I totally respect. I love to meet people who say that they think they're Hildegard. I have total respect for them. I'm like, you have some kind of energetic connection with Hildegard. She is really like sparking your spiritual connection. But remember, it's all her own energy. So if you admire someone out there, there's some energy connection in you. First, you admire a part of yourself. So you may have this resonance, this connection with someone for a while. And then, like I did with some people, I mentioned Carolus Linnaeus, right, earlier. For a while there, I thought I was him, and then I started to realize, like, yeah, really different personalities. But, nobody really argued with me that I was Carolus Linnaeus, and neither spirits nor people. Well, people didn't even want to hear about it. But eventually I figured it out with the help of a friend, Kevin Ryerson. Kevin Ryerson channels Aten Re, who's an Egyptian spirit, and he's very well known for like tuning into reincarnations, validating reincarnation. He's the one who helped me figure out how it is that I feel so close to Carolus Linnaeus and I'm not Carolus Linnaeus. When you figure out your real connection, don't worry, it's not going to hurt your ego. It's going to be a more beautiful, perfect, natural thing if you figure out you're not somebody. Over the years, I've been humble enough. It's like, if I find out I'm not Hildegard, that's okay. But no, it's like, it's clear. That's my soul. We keep growing together. We keep helping each other. By the way, this is one of her sacred visions. They're painted by nuns in her abbey. So it's not really clear who painted which, or if she sketched some or whatever, but she would have these amazing visions that a lot of people speculate to this day were sort of migraine induced. And I would agree. I had migraines when I was a kid that I treated as very sacred. They didn't really hurt. My vision would break up into like these amazing like patterns, and I felt very spiritual about it. So, but this, it kind of has it's known as the egg. It's meant to be like the origin of creation, and it kind of looks like a vagina, right? It's got kind of a goddess creation origin look to it. Anyway, that's one of Hildegard's images. By the way, yeah, I want to mention this. I love this experience I had with Hildegard. When was it? A few years. So once I figured out I was Hildegard, and once I figured out, like, don't try to tell so many people about it, just focus on having fun with Hildegard. We did projects together. So one was I started for 13 years. We ran the Mystical Art and Talent Show at this lovely kind of Gothic little church in Harvard Square, the Swedenborg Chapel. Swedenborg was a mystic from the 1700s, same time as Carolus Linnaeus. So I probably met him. Anyway, so Swedenborg Chapel, Hildegard and I, first we ran mystical experience discussion groups. I just had invited people to, let's talk about mystical experiences. I will help make anyone make sense of things. You're not crazy. If anything, the society out there that dismisses spiritual help and wisdom, they're the ones that are driving themselves crazy. No, you're going sane, not crazy. You know, try to tell people who come to my groups. But what I found was a lot of people who came to share their mystical experiences, what they shared was a lot of artistic expression. Poets and painters and singers and dancers. And I'm like, wow, we got to have a talent show. And like Hildegard's like, yeah, it'll be like, you know, back in the Abbey, because she would do these different kinds of artistic expression projects with her nuns. And so for 13 years we ran, well, first few years was 3 times a year and then just once a year, the Mystical Art and Talent Show. The idea was it's a talent show. Nobody has to be perfect, just be passionate, present. But the thing is, you need to present something that meant a lot to you spiritually and say something about what it means to you spiritually. And like hundreds of people went through the years. I would just like 5 minutes each, you know, something quick on the stage. So a lot of people and paintings on the walls. A lot of artists saying like, oh my God, this means so much to me. No gallery, nobody has ever asked me what it means to me, the kind of spiritual expression that's in my work. It's like, oh, it's beautiful. So Hildegard and I, we just like thrilled to work together on that, validating people. And what was cool was, so when I first got the idea with Hildegard, and I'm like, oh man, this is going to be so great. I'm going to be like Hildegard. We're going to be doing this together. And I don't have to tell anyone about Hildegard. I don't have to say anything. We're just going to be it. We're just going to feel it. It's going to be amazing. And I was guided to notice in a New Age bookstore, the Unicorn Bookstore, if anybody remembers, in the Boston area, wonderful place. That's where I first found tape recordings by Lazarus in my first spiritual awakening at the age of 24. Anyway, so I was in they had some paintings on the wall, and it was like, you know, local artists, and one of them was like, oh, I want this person in the art show. I want them to be the first artist I sign up for the art show. So I meet her, Carla, and yeah, you know, connection with the name, right? Carla, but she was one of Hildegard's artists. Like, we were just hanging out, and I was saying, like, you know, I really like your stuff. And I guess I mentioned, like, you ever heard of Hildegard of Bingen? And she's like, oh my gosh, I have the strangest feeling that I've seen her paintings, and I liked her stuff, it's okay. But then one day I saw this one painting, it's just like, I know that I painted that one. Not the others, but that one I painted. And I'm like, yeah, don't worry, Carla, you were there. You know, I'm Hildegard, and you were there, and absolutely, it makes perfect sense that Hildegard guided me to meet one of her own artists first for our Mystical Art and Talent show. So Carla was in the shows. But yeah, just these wonderful things happen when you connect with your soul. So if for a while you connect with someone and you think, I'm that person, like so many people think there's the same famous person, you know, it's fine. It's connecting, it's grounding you in some way to that time period. So maybe you knew them, or just that time period. You need to zoom in, you need to connect, ground more with your lifetime. Eventually you'll figure out exactly like who by name, if you're in the books. I mean, I'm fortunate like that in many ways I was recorded historically. A lot of people are not recorded historically, but they get perfectly specific details about, you know, where they are, where they may get names, they get stuff about what history was like at that time, and they can research it. Many many stories have been validated simply because the person in their visions, spontaneous or through a hypnosis, past life regression, they come up with details that, like, that's not common knowledge historically, but if you really research and talk to historians, they're like, oh yeah, we don't write about that, or nobody knows about that, but yep, that's exactly what it was like back then. How did you know? Like, well, because I was there. It's like, it's amazing. So yeah, don't worry. If for a while you resonate with Hildegard and you think you are Hildegard, just go for it. Just be open to the fact that you really want your soul. And Hildegard will be happy to help you figure out what your connection to Hildegard is. Maybe you knew her. Maybe you're a Hildegard type person in a different time period. Maybe, you know, just whatever your connection is. It's a joy to connect with souls. It's a joy to meet souls who want to help you be more of the true you. That's what I want to do. I want to help people be more of the true you. So let's wrap it up here. The point is, if you're Christian and you discover you're reincarnated and you're having a hard time being accepted, believed, maybe you're even being demonized, it's not your fault. They took reincarnation out of Christianity early on because they decided, well, if you have just one life to live and you have to like die and wait until the judgment day, you're going to take it really seriously. You're going to listen to everything we tell you to do. And that's not how it works. You're more likely to figure out your soul guidance, and do the right thing if you're allowed to have many lifetimes and realize, like, I'm going to keep making the same mistake over and over. Okay? Reincarnation is real. See, it's all these dictators who think, yeah, there's no afterlife, and are just going to die and then it's all over with. So let's just be as mean as we can and get as much money as we can and like declare ourselves the winner and then we die. No, it's like, and then for those people to have a church that says, yeah, you only got one lifetime, but then you're going to be judged. They're like, yeah, right. No, what really connects you to your soul is knowing that, like, I have an immortal soul, and the mistakes I make in this lifetime could be worse or better in other lifetimes, and I'm going to keep making mistakes until I figure out the real answer from the real universe. Reincarnation is actually very, very clarifying. You need it at some point. I firmly believe, and friends of mine do too, that reincarnation, it's needed. In fact, see, so Walter Semkiw, Dr. Walter Semkiw, he was Pope Eugene III. He was a pope at the time of Hildegard. So Hildegard, she wasn't teaching reincarnation, but she was teaching a lot of visionary stuff, and that women could be, could have a lot of religious authority from their visions. Women were supposed to like stay in their place, and like she was standing out. So there were a lot of like people declaring her some kind of heretic, and her spiritual visions were kind of unorthodox, and she would also take it upon herself to scold clergy who were doing anything corrupt. I could be bossed that way too. It's like you get, when you really feel the source, you're like, isn't it my job to like tell people what they're doing wrong? Well, no, not necessarily. Okay, it's your job to keep yourself safe. So don't tell people what they're doing wrong if you're not going to be safe. So anyway, Dr. Walter Semkiw, he's the reincarnation of Pope Eugene III. He didn't know that lifetime though. He knew that he was John Adams, the president, the founder, the second president of the United States and a founder of the United States. He knew that he was John Adams. So he's written books about it. He works with Kevin Ryerson, was his friend. Kevin Ryerson being that major psychic who channels Aten Ray, who identifies reincarnations. Kevin got really famous for being an early spiritual teacher for Shirley MacLaine, the famous actress who went out on a limb and started talking very openly about her spiritual mystical experiences. So anyway, yeah, it's really neat to find the people you're connected with. And so I did want to, okay, not for ego, but let me just say, because Walter really believed we really need to talk about reincarnation. Let's get past all of the misconceptions, all of the popular myths, the urban myths, all of the stuff about like, well, isn't that just a bunch of people all claiming to be someone famous, Cleopatra or something? It's all egos, right? It's like, no, it's real. Walter's idea was that if everyone knew that reincarnation was real, and you were going to be reincarnated on the side of your enemies, so in any war, like you could be reincarnated in the other side, then surely there would be world peace. John Adams, like Walter, they're very powerful, visionary mind, and also rather logical, not really getting the full, like what people are really going to do with things. They're going to do whatever they want to do. But I loved his vision, Walter, like he's going to teach reincarnation, make it really clear with lots of case studies. Reincarnation is real. So just drop all of your enemies, drop all of your old, family feuds and whatever. Like you're just going to reincarnate on another side. Like, there needs to be world peace. Well, with that vision, he met the reincarnation of Anne Frank. It was very sweet. The girl, the teen girl who wrote a diary hiding from the Nazis, and the diary of Anne Frank, very, very tender, very, very heartrending, because she was just a teenager. She's like trying to figure out teenage stuff. She's also really powerful, articulate soul, and she's going through this time of hiding from the Nazis. And Walter met her reincarnation, a poet. Yeah, let's not go down that whole road, but definitely she passed recently. Didn't get to meet her in person. I messaged with her a bit, but anyway. Yeah, there are reincarnated souls all over the place, and it explains a lot of people's personality flaws. It's like, oh, you still haven't worked out that issue? Like, well, let's help you. So I believe people need to understand and appreciate how wonderful reincarnation is. You're going to figure out your deeper personality. You're going to work out all of your mistakes, your mistaken beliefs, the mistakes you keep making lifetime after lifetime. So to say which Christian theologians I claim to be. Okay. So I know I was a student of Plato. There's a whole soul history here where I started out being sort of a student of some great teachers, and also being a scribe, writing down, the spiritual inspiration of others. I was a student of Plato. I was assigned as a scribe to a priestess in an oracle. So there's just some sort of my early beginnings. I was also in Egypt, to not go into those details. I don't know as many details further back anyway, but a similar role of like that I was a scribe writing down for other, priests and so on. But then I was Gregory of Nazianzus. So that's like the 300s, an early church father. Yeah, and I won't even tell all the stories of how I know. I mean, it's a combination of people who told me, and it resonated, and all kinds of life things line up, and synchronicities. Let your life, if you're intuitively guided by your passions, by your love for life, things will come to you. A lot of things have come to me. And when I was really figuring out incarnations, like a lot of information was coming to me. And it'd be like, yeah, you just think you're this person because you heard of that name. But that name resonated so much. And then I heard other names like, no, I'm not them. No problem. So it's not an ego thing. It's a resonance. It's a deep soul resonance. So Gregory of Nazianzus. Next major one, there's some Eastern cultures that I don't connect with as clearly, but I know like lifetimes in India, in the East. But then there's Hildegard, so 1098 into 1100s. 1181, was that when she died? I think it was. And no, it's 1179. That's what it was, wasn't it? Anyway, so it was Hildegard, and then there's Julian of Norwich a few hundred years later. Then they start clustering. I was Jane Ward Lead, who's a Christian mystic in England, around, like the area of Julian of Norwich, kind of reprising some things there. But also around the same time, I was Jacob Burma. So Jacob Burma is in Germany. He was a German mystic, and he overlapped just slightly with Jane Ward Lead. But it was interesting how Jane Ward Lead, her theology, she met a mentor. Her mentor was Yuddha, by the way. If you know about Hildegard, she had a mentor. I have the same mentor in many lifetimes. I'm getting into too much detail anyway. But the Christians, mystics, I wanted to say. So then I mentioned Vladimir Solovyev. He was a big one in the late 1800s. He went mad trying to reconcile all the Christian churches. He wanted to, I think I mentioned that at the beginning of this talk. He was trying to unite all the Christian churches under the teachings of Jesus. And he went crazy, like he got paranoid. It's like, you can't make everybody agree. he just was consumed by some kind of perfectionism and torturous thoughts, and started to get more paranoid. The way he died, he doused himself with turpentine. So turpentine, that's a paint thinner. But see, in the 1800s, now we know that it's toxic. A lot of things people didn't know were toxic. You could have known if you were fully in touch with your body, I suppose. But turpentine, it's a natural distillate of pine needles, so it was thought to be like natural. And it's got such a strong odor, it was thought to kind of like sage, like smudging. It would get rid of evil spirits. So he covered himself in turpentine more and more toward the end of his life. People said he reeked of turpentine, and he died of a liver poisoning from the turpentine fumes. But anyway, so he was a Christian theologian. Who else? Well, there's the French Cardinal Brienne. I had dreams of him and then found him in research. Cardinal Brienne in the 1700s in France. He was a cardinal. Etienne Charles de Lomenie de Brienne. And but he's not known so much for being a great Christian theologian, because he became scandalous when he tried to avert the French Revolution. He tried to get involved in some of the politics and arrange for some wealth redistribution, and that didn't work. And then he got demonized by all sides and was killed in the French Revolution. Not immediately, but a little afterward, trying to survive there. And anyway, so he's not particularly venerated, but yeah, I mean, he hung out with French intellectuals around that time. That was an amazing Enlightenment period. A lot of socioeconomic ideas, and as well as the sciences, and a lot of what inspired the writers of the Declaration of Independence. And I was a doctor in Philadelphia. I knew some of the people, so I was not a well-known person. But I knew through the Masonic Lodge. I knew Benjamin Franklin. I always felt really close to him. So yeah, there's a lot of lifetimes that I know about. The one where I knew Shakespeare, but he wasn't a theologian. He was a lute player, but he was concurrent with Jacob Burma at the end of the 1500s. So, an example, you can have parallel lifetimes, and one lifetime will be more centered on the soul's spiritual highest, ideals. So that would be the Jacob Burma, whereas the musician lifetime, Robert Johnson, who provided some music for Shakespeare and other playwrights, commissioned, provided by King James. Robert Johnson was a lute player, but yeah, I had deep feelings for Shakespeare. I'm sure we had some pretty neat philosophical discussions around his play ideas, especially the later that I provided some music for The Tempest. But I know some lifetimes that are really quite obscure, just dealing more with the human issues. And certainly native lifetimes. I mean, I don't even know the names, but different tribes, different areas I was in. Reincarnation is amazing. And you're constantly humbled. How can you go into ego? You're so humbled that the universe has all these amazing repeating patterns, and that you are a repeating pattern, that you are treasured and cherished by the universe and given lifetime after lifetime, and that the different lifetimes have a sort of division of labor. Of some are working on more the human issues, some are working on more the spiritual issues, and the different lifetimes are continually dynamically influencing, interconnecting. That's your soul family, and then of your soul family and the universe that you are, you can connect to other spiritual friends, soul mates, and different kinds of relationships. I mean, just, God, it's why would anybody waste time with negativity? They're still monkeying around with really basic concepts of whoa, if I try to hurt people, do I feel bad or not? It's yeah, you do feel bad. Okay, so I've had fun making this talk. This is pretty long, I'm sure. And so if you're Christian and you get you get yourself reincarnated and you want to discuss it with some Christians and theology of it all, don't be surprised if they really reject you and you feel bad. But then you figure out, like, yeah, if I just saw it from the beginning, I could be guided to understand, that's just their belief systems. Don't take it personally when people reject you out of their belief systems. They're having enough trouble of their own. Just learn to accept and understand yourself and go where you belong to thrive.